Among the world's finest fortified wines, port wine, also known as Porto, occupies a place of great prestige. It is produced exclusively from grapes grown in the upper Douro Valley of northern Portugal, one of the oldest legally protected wine-producing regions in the world. Port wine owes its existence partly to history. During the early 18th century, political tensions between England and France encouraged British wine merchants to import wines from Portugal instead of France. The Methuen Treaty of 1703 strengthened trade between Britain and Portugal, leading to increased exports of Portuguese wines to England. However, long sea voyages often caused ordinary wines to spoil before reaching their destination. To solve this problem, producers began adding grape brandy to the wine. The additional alcohol stabilized the wine, preserved its quality during transportation, and gradually became a defining characteristic of port wine. Today, port is intentionally fortified by adding grape spirit during fermentation. This stops yeast activity before all the natural grape sugar is converted into alcohol, leaving residual sweetness and producing the rich, sweet fortified wine for which port is famous. Grape varieties used for port wine. More than 40 grape varieties are authorized for port wine production in the Douro region. These grapes are cultivated in vineyards known as quintas, the traditional wine estates of Portugal. The grapes are harvested toward the end of September, when they have reached optimum ripeness and sugar concentration. To maintain consistent quality, producers often purchase grapes from the same vineyards every year. Traditional grape crushing. Once harvested, the grapes are transported to the producer's winery, commonly known as a lodge, where pressing and fermentation begin. Traditionally, port grapes are foot-pressed in large shallow stone tanks called lagares. Unlike mechanical crushers, foot pressing gently breaks the grape skins without crushing the seeds or stems, preventing the release of bitter tannins while extracting maximum color and flavor. Although labor-intensive and expensive, this traditional method is still practiced by many premium port producers because it produces wines of exceptional quality. Fermentation and fortification. The freshly crushed grape juice is transferred into fermentation vats. During fermentation, yeast converts grape sugar into alcohol while extracting deep color, tannins, and flavor compounds from the grape skins. Unlike ordinary wines, fermentation is deliberately stopped before completion. When the wine reaches approximately 8.5 to 9% alcohol, grape spirit, brandy, is added. The high alcohol concentration immediately kills the yeast, preventing further fermentation and preserving much of the natural grape sugar. Traditionally, the ratio used is approximately 4 parts wine to 1 part grape spirit. This process produces the sweet, rich, and powerful fortified wine known as port. Aging and blending. After fortification, the young port wine is transported across the Douro River to the famous wine cellars of Vila Nova de Gaia, opposite the city of Porto. Here the wines are matured in oak barrels, often called pipes or casks, under carefully controlled conditions. During aging, expert winemakers blend wines of different ages and characteristics to achieve the desired house style, consistency, and quality. Each producer carefully develops its own unique blends, creating the distinctive character associated with its brand. Quality control. The production of port wine is strictly regulated. Every wine is examined, tested, and certified by the Instituto dos Vinhos do Douro e do Porto, IVDP, the official port wine institute. This organization ensures authenticity, maintains quality standards, regulates production, and keeps records of all port wines produced and stored in Portugal. Types of port wine. Port wines are broadly classified into 2 main categories: wood ports, bottle ports, vintage ports. Each style develops different flavors depending on where and how long it is aged. Wood ports. Wood ports mature primarily in oak casks before bottling. Because they spend considerable time exposed to small amounts of oxygen through the wooden barrels, these wines develop softer textures, lighter colors, and nutty flavors. 1. Ruby port. Ruby port is the youngest and most affordable style of port. It is produced by blending wines from different years and aging them in oak casks for approximately 5 years. Its deep ruby red color, fresh berry flavors, and youthful fruitiness make it one of the most popular everyday ports. Ruby port is intended for early consumption and is best enjoyed within 2 years after bottling. 2. Tawny port. Tawny port is produced by aging blended port wines in oak barrels for a minimum of 7 years. Premium tawny ports may remain in casks for 10, 20, 30, or even 40 years, and these ages are proudly displayed on the label. As the wine matures, it gradually loses its deep red color, becoming amber or tawny in appearance. Its flavors become softer, smoother, and more complex, with notes of caramel, roasted nuts, dried fruits, and spice. Because of its extended aging, tawny port is generally more expensive than ruby port. Some inexpensive tawny ports are produced by blending white port with ruby port. 3. White port. Unlike most ports, white port is produced exclusively from white grape varieties. It has a pale golden color, a lighter body, and a dry to medium sweet taste. White port is commonly served chilled as an aperitif or used in refreshing cocktails. 4. Colheita port. Colheita port is a special style of tawny port produced entirely from the grapes of a single harvest, single vintage. According to Portuguese regulations, it must mature in oak casks for at least 7 years, although many are aged for several decades. Both the vintage year and the bottling year are clearly stated on the label. Bottle ports, vintage ports. Unlike wood ports, these wines spend relatively little time in oak barrels and continue developing primarily inside the bottle. Bottle aging preserves their rich fruit character while allowing them to become increasingly complex over many years. 1. Crusted port. Crusted port is a blended port aged in wood for approximately 5 to 6 years before bottling. Unlike filtered wines, it throws a heavy natural sediment, or crust, during bottle aging. For this reason, it should be decanted before serving. 2. Late bottled vintage, LBV. Late bottled vintage, commonly called LBV, is produced from the grapes of a single harvest year. It matures in oak barrels for approximately 4 to 6 years before bottling. Because it is already sufficiently matured, LBV usually does not require decanting before serving. Its label always displays both the vintage year and the bottling year. 3. Vintage character port, VCP. Vintage character port is produced by blending several high-quality ruby ports from different years. It is aged for approximately 4 years before bottling and is ready to drink immediately after release. It offers many characteristics of true vintage port at a more affordable price. 4. Vintage port. Vintage port represents the highest quality and most prestigious style of port wine. Only wines from exceptional harvests are declared as vintage ports. Before approval, samples are submitted to the Port Wine Institute, which determines whether the harvest meets the strict quality requirements. Vintage port matures in oak barrels for only 2 to 3 years before bottling. After bottling, it continues aging for 20 years or more, with some wines developing beautifully for over 40 years. These wines produce heavy sediment during bottle aging and must always be decanted before serving. Vintage ports are deep purple in color, full-bodied, intensely fruity, naturally sweet, and considered among the finest fortified wines in the world. Port shippers. The companies responsible for producing, aging, exporting, and marketing port wines are known as port shippers. Some of the world's most respected port houses include A.A. Calum, A.A. Ferreira, Gonzalez Bias, Smith Woodhouse, Cockburn Smiths, Feuerherd Bros, C.N. Kopka, Wurre, Croft, Fonseca, Morgan Bros, Guimaraens Vinos SARL, Delaforce, W.J. Graham, Sandman. Port wine is one of the world's greatest fortified wines, combining centuries of Portuguese tradition with exceptional craftsmanship. Produced exclusively in the Upper Douro Valley, its unique production process involves interrupting fermentation by adding grape spirit, preserving natural sweetness while increasing alcohol content. From youthful ruby port to elegant tawny port, refreshing white port, and the legendary vintage port, every style reflects a different aging method and flavor profile. Strict quality control by the Port Wine Institute, careful blending, and long maturation have earned port its worldwide reputation as one of the most luxurious and respected wines, enjoyed both as a dessert wine and a symbol of Portuguese winemaking excellence. We end this video here. Please like, subscribe, and share.